Max Verstappen experienced one of his toughest races this season after Red Bull opted to modify his car, despite him clearly expressing satisfaction with its performance during FP1 and FP2. The three-time world champion was left without the ability to challenge the drivers ahead, and if this trend continues, the Dutch driver might seriously contemplate leaving Red Bull, especially after Marco's recent remarks. Additionally, Norris trimmed another 3 points off Verstappen's lead in the championship standings, intensifying the situation. Could the Azerbaijan Grand Prix be a sign that Red Bull's decline is imminent, and should Verstappen consider switching teams? From Verstappen's viewpoint, the weekend in Baku was one of the least competitive. Being out-qualified and significantly outpaced by his teammate highlights just how problematic his car was throughout the 51-lap race. The numbers back this up, as Verstappen's winless streak has now stretched to 7 races. In the last 7 events, Verstappen has only managed to stand on the podium twice, once at his home race in Zandvoort and again at Silverstone, where he secured P2. Although Baku is known to be one of Perez's favored tracks, seeing Verstappen trapped behind Norris, who was on far more degraded tires, despite having a DRS advantage, is uncharacteristic for the 3-time world champion. There appears to be a solid reason behind Verstappen's unusually poor competitiveness. It all seems to stem from team decisions. Speaking about the conclusion of the Baku weekend, Verstappen didn't mince his words. He stated, "Yes, the car was terrible again, with no speed at all, and on the medium tires it degraded more than expected. It was slightly better on the hard tires, but then I got stuck behind Albon and Lando. The brakes overheated, forcing me to step back. Eventually, the pace improved slightly. But my car remained very difficult to handle." During qualifying, Verstappen already realized that the modifications made to his car were ineffective. "I couldn't brake properly or attack corners," he said. "A wheel was constantly coming off the ground, causing me to bounce in all directions in slow corners. It felt like driving a go-kart." Despite feeling confident in the car's capabilities during the first 2 practice sessions, Verstappen noted that while the car wasn't perfect, he understood its limitations and expected a competitive weekend. However, the team's adjustments to his car and setup left Verstappen feeling stranded. He openly discussed this after qualifying, explaining how he was more than 6/10 off Leclerc's pole position, barely managing to qualify P6. "From my first lap in Q1, I felt the car step back. We made some changes that made the car incredibly unpredictable and tough to drive," Verstappen shared. "You're always aiming to improve things, but unfortunately, we pushed it too far, and it's disappointing this happened in qualifying." There was, however, a silver lining for Verstappen that weekend. Norris was disqualified from Q1 for a rare infraction, the first of its kind this season, while Hamilton opted for a fresh power unit just hours before the race, forfeiting his P7 start alongside Verstappen and starting from the pit lane instead. If we compare Russell's performance, who had no difficulty overtaking Verstappen during the second stint on hard tires, it's plausible to think Hamilton could have finished ahead of Verstappen as well. Verstappen repeatedly complained about the rear of the car, but at the beginning of the race he told his race engineer, Lambias, that the front end felt non-existent as the car lacked grip. Overall, it was a gloomy weekend for Verstappen. He had hoped to capitalize on Norris' poor start at P17, later promoted to P15 due to penalties for Gasly and Hamilton. However, the race didn't go in his favor. Adding salt to the wound, Norris managed to finish ahead of Verstappen, a scenario that, while anticipated by many due to the MCL38's competitiveness, was still hard to accept, considering the 9-place starting difference between them. Looking ahead, Red Bull's upcoming races, especially Singapore, don't look promising. Singapore was the only race last year where the previously dominant RB19 failed to secure a win. Not only did they miss out on victory, but both cars were eliminated in Q2. Given the RB20's current struggles with tracks that feature bumps and curbs, another challenging weekend could be on the horizon. This raises many questions about whether Verstappen deserves the treatment he's been receiving from the team over the last few races. The car has been far from competitive, and despite Verstappen being vocal about the issues, his concerns haven't been fully addressed, likely due to the fact he won races like Spain and Canada, which he arguably shouldn't have. With just 7 races left and 3 sprint events on the way, Verstappen's 59-point lead over Norris could shrink faster than expected, This could create the perfect scenario for him to leave Red Bull for a more favorable environment, with Aston Martin emerging as a strong candidate. Helmut Marko has stirred the pot by fueling rumors. The seasoned Austrian commented, "Max excels where he can win." Aston Martin has the most modern facilities, with a new wind tunnel set to be operational next year and Honda engines on the way. Everything fits. And history shows that success follows Adrian Newey. I don't see why that would be any different at Aston Martin. Verstappen is aware he can win titles with Red Bull too, but only if they manage to overcome the challenges of this season. Verstappen himself acknowledged the ongoing situation between Newey and Aston Martin while praising the 65-year-old's genius. However, his primary focus remains on the RB20's current performance issues. Although he hasn't ruled out a move in the future, he stated, "I've got other worries at the moment, focusing on things I'm working on. A move to Aston Martin is something I might think about later, but not now." This marks a shift in Verstappen's mindset compared to a few races ago when he seemed fully committed to staying with Red Bull until the end of his contract, which runs through 2028. However, with Marko hinting that Verstappen's future isn't guaranteed beyond 2026, Aston Martin appears ready to do whatever it takes to bring Max to their team. Red Bull is also working on utilizing their new wind tunnel in the near future, but for now, they're stuck using a 70-year-old facility. On top of that, they're dealing with the repercussions of their sporting penalty, which limits how many times they can run the car in the wind tunnel and conduct CFD simulations. All these factors are making it increasingly difficult to extract more performance from the RB20, with Marko admitting that the Constructors' Championship is now a long shot due to McLaren's dominance. The team's current focus is on supporting Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship as much as possible. However, with his lead reduced to just 59 points and Perez unable to offer any assistance in Baku, Verstappen's title defense is looking shaky. Conversations between Red Bull's top figures, including Verstappen's father, Jos, who has publicly criticized Horner for the team's current predicament, are expected to take place soon. The general consensus is that Red Bull's performance will improve from the Austin Grand Prix onwards, and the team can count on rivals like Norris and even Piastri to take points away from Verstappen's competition. But looking ahead to 2025, the outlook is uncertain. If Red Bull's downturn continues, Verstappen and his team may not even be in the championship mix. With that in mind, do you think Verstappen should seek a new team from 2026? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.